You know, if I don't use these today, I'm going to have to make earrings with them, or... Hello my lovelies, I hope all is good in your neck of the wood. In today's video, I am going to be making my very own pair of Carmen Miranda inspired shoes, and I'm going to show you how. Before we crack on with this wonderful sewing adventure, which I'm so excited about, I just wanted to say a very humongous thank you to all of the new subscribers here, and for all the lovely comments that I've been getting about these sewing adventures that I share here with you on YouTube. I'm so grateful. I love your comments, so keep them coming and let's carry on having loads of fun sewing up vintage inspired and DIY style for our handmade wardrobes. The first thing you need to make your Carmen Miranda inspired shoes is a pair of espadrilles. You can buy kits for these if you want. I bought mine from a high street shop, and you need to make sure that they're the ones that you can take apart. They're stitched rather than glued, because you get to do this fun bit, which is destroying them. So mucho destruction has happened. I've taken apart and kept all the bits, and what I'm going to do is make patterns out of these things. So here we are at the pattern cutting table, and I've got all my equipment together. I'm using spot and cross paper to make my pattern, but you can use any paper that you have to hand. I've drawn a centre line on the spot and cross paper and just lined up the centre of the toe bit. It's a bit of a guesstimate, but I've done the best I can. And then pin in place. There's quite a few layers to this fabric section. I'm not going to be doing all of that. I want my life to be simple and enjoyable. Just draw around the toe. Make sure that it is pinned on as flat as possible. It's not symmetrical, so once you've drawn around it, you're going to add your seam allowance. I'm just putting 1 centimetre on, and I possibly may end up trimming quite a lot of that off, I don't know. And I'm writing which is the inner and the outer bit of the toe, and then do the same for the heel section, and also mark on where the holes go for the ribbon to be threaded through, although I end up using the actual piece that I've reserved to do this. I've done it in half because just it makes life a little bit easier. I folded my paper in half as well, just a little quick shortcut. And at the end of the day, whenever you're doing any kind of pattern cutting, you want to be as accurate as possible. Seam allowance again and cut out, and then you're ready to start cutting out fabric. So I'm using calico for the inner and this pretty Liberty print for the outer. So I've cut all my bits out. I've got lining. I've just used calico because I end up reusing toiles and things like that. My favourite Liberty print from the 30s called Honeymoon. So I've cut out the toe section and the heel section, both of those. Now what you're going to do is you're going to place right sides together. So you're going to make sure they're the right way round. So I'm going to put right sides together, right sides facing, that's right sides of the fabric, and pin all the way around. But what you've got to do is you've got to leave a little gap, because we're going to bag these out. And the other thing that we need to do as well is we need to put the little bit of ribbon there to hold the strap, if you want to do that bit. I'm assuming that you can kind of make up quite a lot of this as you know, seeing as that you're customizing and bedazzling your very own Carmen Miranda inspired summer shoes or espadrilles. you can make decisions. I'm gonna put mine in and we shall see. And what I'm going to do with that, I've got this very pretty grosgrain ribbon, and I think I'm going to measure 4 centimetres because we want maybe 5 centimetres. So each one's going to be 5 centimetres. This is much easier to do when you haven't actually already pinned the fabrics together. But you know, I like to live life on the edge sometimes. So what I'm going to do is on the right side of the toe section, I'm going to fold the little tab in half, and I did actually do so if it's 1 centimetre, so it's going to sit. You can look at the original for reference if you need to. So when that's actually sewn with 1 centimetre, you can decide if you think the tab's going to be big enough. So I'm happy with that. So do that to both of them. So the tab in, right sides together, pins all the way around, and then do the same with the heel section. Once everything's pinned, you're ready for the fun bit, which is sewing. I love sewing on my Bernina machine. I've had her for 22 years and she's one of my most treasured possessions. It's a bit fiddly, this sewing, but it's very satisfying. Once all the seams are sewn, you're going to have to clip all the curves and then turn through between that gap you left. It's quite important to make sure that all the points are nice and crisp because they are going to be seen on your shoe. I'm using ye olde trusty point turner from Merchant & Mills. Give everything a good old press because you want all the edges to be as crisp as possible, and then just slip stitch all the gaps closed. I had a grand time getting together all the trimmings and bedazzlements for these Carmen Miranda inspired shoes. I raided my stash, but I also went to Jacobs and bought these fabulous pom-poms. I may have gone a bit mad and bought quite a few giant ones to do other things with, but that's a secret. And then basically you play, you just pin things on, place things on, see what you like, and then once you're happy you stitch them in place, just hand stitch them in place. I love these millinery flowers. These are new ones, and then this little pink one is a vintage one that I've had for years and years and years, and I have to say this was one of the most enjoyable mornings I've had in a very, very long time. There's no rhyme or reason or particular technique to the stitching here. Just stitch as neatly as you can and enjoy. I tied the ribbon of the pom-pom in a knot on the back, and then I sewed through that to attach the pom-pom. I was originally going to actually cut off the ribbon, but I decided to just tie it in a bow, and then I pinned the toe like this. I call this the danger method because honestly, don't do as I do. I show you a little bit later on how I ended up actually pinning the shoes because this was ridiculous. I sewed little tiny buttonholes into the heel to thread the ribbon through. You could of course use eyelets if you prefer. You need a needle with a big eye and a sharp point for this, quite a
heavyweight one, and I use this DMC embroidery thread, but you can buy proper espadrille thread from the old internet. And what you're going to do essentially is leave a tail, so double the thread, leave a tail. If you can work out how to estimate how much thread you're going to need by going all the way round the espadrille, then, you know, do. This is how I end up actually pinning the espadrille so that I don't kill my fingers. And you're basically doing a blanket stitch. These espadrilles already had holes, so I tried where possible to use them. And you want your width of your blanket stitches to be as even as possible, but if you don't get them all that even, then don't worry about it too much. This was quite a arduous process and took quite a toll on my fingers, so I suggest doing this in little sections just to make sure that your hands don't hurt too much. And you basically tie off the ends of the thread, so when you get all the way round to where you started, tie off those tails together and snip. Make sure that Loki approves of what you're doing. I always know a project's a good one if he's overly interested in it. I used the original ribbon or lacing, ties, what you will, to measure the grosgrain. I just overextended the amount because what I wanted to do was actually put the tassels on here, but I only had 2 of the pink ones. I need to buy a couple more when they come back in stock, so I will be finishing these off with the tassels rather than placing them somewhere less appropriate than around my ankles. I love them. They are things of joy, just like Carmen Miranda herself. You can't help but be happy when wearing ridiculous shoes with pom-poms and flowers and tassels and all sorts. Whatever it is, just let your creativity go. I really hope you've enjoyed this sewing tutorial this week. I've absolutely loved it. And I hope that you join me again in my little cottage by the sea for lots more vintage inspired and DIY sewing adventures. We make the world a better place one stitch at a time. See you soon, my lovelies. Bye.